The pressure is mounting on Lamar Jackson. Does Mike Vick still trust the former MVP? He'll join us. He'll tell us. We will discuss. We are only into week 2, but Dak and the Cowboys already trying to get back on track. Is Sunday against the Chargers now a must-win for Dallas? And Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, Nick thinks 20-0 is on the board. He is more sure now than ever. Good Friday morning, everyone. Welcome to First Things First alongside Nick Wright and Chris Broussard and Kevin Wildes. I'm Jenna Wolfe. Is the bubbly on ice, Mr. Nick Wright? You got this thing all planned out already. You don't even have to watch the rest of the season.
No. Bubbly's not yet on ice. But if they beat the Ravens, we're going to be putting a down payment on a few cases. We're going to get the process started, Jenna. Wow.
All right, we will get to that. We got to start with a wild finish to Thursday Night Football. Giants Washington picked this up in the final seconds. Washington kicker Dustin Hopkins, a chance to win from 48. Oh no! It sails wide right, and the Giants win. Oh, but hang on a second. Wait, no! D-tackle Dexter Lawrence jumped off sides on the field goal attempt, so Hopkins gets a second chance to redeem himself. That one was good from 43. He nailed it. Washington pulling it out. They get the win. Heartbreak for the Giants. They're now 0-2. A tough one to swallow for former, by the way, special teams coach Joe Judge.
Obviously, something we don't want to have, something that's not acceptable. But look, we're not going to turn around and put this game on any one player or one play. There's enough things we can clean up as a team. We can play better going forward. So we're not going to go ahead and isolate one incident and say that's the difference in the game right there. So we got to make sure we do a lot of things better for 60 minutes.
The New York Giants fans going from glory to glum in just seconds. Even though, look, Danny Dimes played pretty well. 249 passing yards, 95 rushing yards. More than Saquon Barkley, by the way. And a touchdown through the air and a touchdown on the ground. But, Nick, a brutal loss nonetheless. How do you think Giants fans feel this morning?
Well, the good and the bad, right? The good is if Saquon continues to be limited by the injury, at least they know they have a very solid number 2 running back in Daniel Jones. The bad is their season's over. You can't start with these two teams in this fashion and lose the way they have and have any hope. Listen, there were only 4 teams on their schedule that when it came out, you're like, hey, we might have the better quarterback. 2 of them they've already played. They're 0-2. The other one is the game against Carolina and the game against Chicago, if Dalton were still playing, which he shouldn't be. That's week 17. And now when they play Washington again, if Heineke's still out there, they know we don't have the better quarterback. Now, Daniel Jones played one of the better games of his career yesterday, which is why it's such a shame for the Giants that they were not able to hold on and win. Remarkably, this was only the 6th game of his career. The 6th, where he didn't turn the ball over. They had been 4-1 in the previous 5. They are now 4-2. And after, when they had the opportunity to put this game on ice, after the Taylor Heineke one big mistake in a game he played awesome in, they couldn't pick up the 1 first down they needed. Kenny Galladay's on the sideline upset because he understood what that meant for their chances of winning. And so, no, if you're a Giants fan, Broussard, you're looking around, you're like, well, we're the worst team in what might end up being the worst division in the NFC. We're 0-2 with 2 of our softer games already having been played. Our season's done, and it's not yet the end of September.
Well, I'll start nicely, Nick. You mentioned Daniel Jones, 6 games, no turnovers in his career. 4 of those 6 have been within his last 7 contests. So he's getting better. And like you said, he did play well last night. He was not the problem. Joe Judge was right in one thing he said in that press conference. It's not one play, and it's not one player that deserves the blame. All right, and I'm going to start here. How should Giants fans feel? They should be enraged. All right, enraged. I'm not even a Giants fan, and I'm enraged. Because they threw that football game away. All right? And when you have no margin for error, because, frankly, you're not that good, you can't throw football games away. Nick, you hit it on the head. Their season's basically over. Because 4 of their next 6 opponents are the Saints, the Rams, the Cowboys, and the Chiefs. All right, those are L's. So they're going to be 2, at the best, they're going to be 2-6. And now it's, do we go with Danny Dimes in the future, or do we start looking at the college ranks for our quarterback? So they blew it. And I am not just talking about the field goal at the end where Dexter Lawrence inexplicably is offsides, all right, and you cost your team the game. There was much more than that, and that's where I mentioned Joe Judge. How about Darius Slayton dropping a sure touchdown pass where there's not a defender in sight? All right, I get it, Danny Jones threw it a tad bit long, but you're a professional receiver. You got to catch that. All right, that would have been the ball game right there. But that wasn't it. Well, how do they follow that up? Well, Nate Soldier, false start. So you turn a 3rd and 5 into a 3rd and 10. And then the very next play, the other offensive tackle, Andrew Thomas, false start. Now it's 3rd and 15. You're lucky that Danny Dimes was able to scramble and get you in the field goal position. And then Gano hits a 55-yarder. And then with 37 seconds left, Nick, they have another infraction that moves the ball forward and puts Washington in Giants territory on that last game-winning drive when they kicked the field goal. So, Joe Judge, and I kind of like Judge because I'm an old-school guy. But you're supposed to be a disciplinarian. You're supposed to be old school. You're supposed to be buttoned up and everything is done right. And you got 4 terrible penalties in the last 6 minutes that cost your team the game. That's why Giants fans, Wiles, should be enraged, because they gave it away and not just on the field goal.
You're 100% right about Joe Judge being a disciplinarian, and a lot of people are taking shots at him because he famously makes all the Giants run laps. So, like, hey, you're making them run laps, and you still have all these penalties. What's your answer? You know what my answer if I was Joe Judge? More laps. Lap it up. Looks like we weren't doing enough laps if we have all those penalties that Broussard laid out. More laps, Jenna. We're double the amount of laps. But this is why you guys have buried the lead. Because earlier this week, in Nick's tears, he said, oh, Giants' worst team. And I'm sorry, moving around. The camera's going crazy. I'm enraged. Yeah. It said the Giants are the worst team of his tears. And you put him on Spencer Rattler watch, and Broussard said, yep, you got to start watching Oklahoma games, Giants. And guess what? Danny Dimes was awesome. So I would like you, in the first block of the segment, we'll have Nick start. Are you willing? No, I'm not going to say are you willing. I demand you take the Giants off of Spencer Rattler watch. Danny Dimes was great. You said your big issue was the turnovers. He didn't have any turnovers. He played fantastic. And his stats would have been even better. They would have been even better if he didn't have the penalties on his long run or the pass that Slayton should have caught. So take Danny Dimes
Who was the better quarterback on the field last night? Who was the better quarterback on the field last night? I'm just curious. It matters in this regard.
I'm a quarterback wins guy.
You want me to take... Okay, well, then I guess you like Heineke last night. And he had the biggest throws. Daniel Jones had 2 excellent throws. The touchdown to Slayton and then the drop past Slayton. It would have been up for debate if Heineke didn't have a throw that almost made Troy Aikman pass out. The touchdown to Ricky Seals-Jones in the corner of the end zone, I looked at that and I said, oh, my God, is that Taylor Heineke or is that Aaron Rodgers? I mean, that couldn't have been better. So here's why. Watch it again. We'd show you, but we're short on footage this morning, America. Just imagine, close your eyes and imagine an angel descending on a unicorn. That's what the throw looked like. Now, more importantly, though, is this. If you're the Giants, you want me to take them off Rattler watch. Here's the problem.
Yes.
Look around the division. They're like, will Daniel Jones ever be better than Dak Prescott? Nope. Is Daniel Jones currently better than Jalen Hurts, who has 5 career starts? Nope. Was Daniel Jones better than Taylor Heineke, who, as they reminded us last night during the broadcast, 9 months ago, was taking math classes at ODU because he's like, this football thing ain't going to be my future? No, he wasn't better than him. So the Giants are actually, in an odd way, Broussard, lucky Dexter Lawrence jumped off sides because they don't want to trick themselves into thinking, if maybe we can actually figure that. No, you got to rip the thing down. They're the worst team in the worst division in the NFC.
Okay, look, both of you guys need to slow down. All right, as Aaron Rodgers might say, relax. All right, the verdict is still out, Nick, on both Jalen Hurts and Taylor Heineke. All right, so I'm not willing to say they're definitely better than Danny Dimes yet. Okay, and Wilds, I'll meet you halfway. What I'm willing to do is,
thank you.
Let's see. I'm willing to keep watching. Now, yeah, I'm sending a scout to Oklahoma games, okay? But still, I'm willing to give Danny Dimes a chance. I'm not throwing him out right now, so I'll give you that. But yeah, I'll meet both you guys halfway. Slow down.
Is it possible he's just playing the wrong position, Jenna? Is it possible Daniel Jones is just like we talked about with other quarterbacks, that he should be a running back? That maybe he should be a running back.
He's a
Something
poor
else
man's
for the
Lamar
Giants.
Jackson.
Giants, by the way, guys, 0-2 for the 8th time in the last 9 years. None of those years included a trip to the playoffs, so maybe Nick's onto something here. Back talking another team that needs a win. Should Aaron Rodgers and the Packers be on upset alert against the Lions this week? Lions? We discuss next. First things first. Time now for Drawing a Blank. Talking Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. After the MVP admitted the team needs to be better than they were in week 1 when they got molly-whopped, as Nick would say, by the Jameis Winston-led Saints. Next up, a gimme in Dan Campbell's Detroit Lions. Or is it? Should the Packers be on upset alert again? Certainly on the board. Happened last week, but Broussard, the team that should be on upset alert in week 2 is blank.
Jenna, it's the San Francisco 49ers. All right, first of all, we all know that when you are a West Coast team and you're playing on the East Coast at 1 o'clock, it's tough because you're essentially playing at 10 o'clock in the morning your time. So it takes your body to get a while to get acclimated to that. So that is one reason that the 49ers need to be on upset alert. Secondly, they didn't exactly end their last game with a bang. All right, when they gave up those 2 touchdowns at the end of the game. And I don't want to make too much out of it, but I just didn't like it. I didn't like the attitude that it showed. All right, they let go of the rope. And then you wonder, could that spill over into this week? And then they're facing Philadelphia, which shocked everybody. I mean, you used the word mollywop, Jenna. Well, they mollywop Knicks Falcons. Yes, they're Knicks Falcons. He's got them making the playoffs. And so Jalen Hurts, is he for real? If he is, and I like the young talent in Philadelphia. I really like Miles Sanders. I think he's underrated. And Devontae Smith, what a debut. So I'm not picking the upset, but this is definitely one to watch on the upset alert meter.
Okay, so listen, way to have courage and go out on a limb by not picking an upset, but just monitoring it as a potential upset. I like that. Listen, you're not going to take shots at me having the courage, the conviction, the gall to pick the Falcons to make the playoffs, and then at the end be like, let me be clear. This isn't a pick.
How's that working out for you?
This is just a pick of a possible pick. Yeah, okay. Here's the thing.
No, how's that working out for you right now? That Falcons
Week 1, not great. Week 1, we never know who it's about. So week 1, is it about that the Falcons are simply awful? Is it about that the Eagles are awesome? Is it about a little of both? None of the above, an outlier game? So that's why week 2 is so fascinating and interesting. What I would say about that game, Broussard, is if you look at Jalen, who was outstanding in that game, almost all of his production came throwing to the right side of the field and when he got out to the right side of the field. So I'm sure if I noticed it, the 49ers and that great defense noticed it. My guess is they pressure him from that side, try to force him to the left, and we'll see how he adjusts. I'm going with one that I do think is going to happen. Not that possibly you could watch and see it's close. No. I'm picking this upset. Miami's going to beat the Bills. The Bills are going to fall to 0-2. The Bills got to go down to Miami. You have that outstanding Miami defense that knows they don't have to worry about a running game at all from Buffalo. You have a Bills defense that I think is inferior to the Patriots defense from last week, so it should be a little easier on Tua. And I just think this is a golden opportunity, Wilds, for the Dolphins. All 2-0 starts are not created equal. if your 2-0 start is 2 victories over supposedly the 2 teams in your division you're chasing, and you already guarantee yourself at worst a season split, you start 2-0 in the divisional standings. I like Miami's coach. I love their defense. I think Tua will be better than he was last week. And, you know, one more really rough outing, and this Miami defense can do this to you. The Josh Allen conversation starts getting louder and louder. So I'm going to go ahead and say the Dolphins as 3.5-point dogs at home win outright over the Bills.
What Josh Allen conversation are you having? You want to like claw back money? What do you want to do? It's like when you buy, like you want to like cancel your purchase? Like what do you want? You want to cancel the contract?
The Josh Allen conversation, one more bad game. The conversation starts being, is Josh Allen, you know, does he belong in the conversation of the league's best quarterbacks, or does he belong in the conversation of the league's worst contracts? Like those are 2 very different conversations. And so I'm just saying the conversation, you know, could start to bubble up a bit in spaces outside of this show. This show's been having it because this show likes to be ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
Other shows could have it.
This show is like your Google Drafts, you know, the conversation should be happening as a full Google document, a dossier. Okay, I'm not going to be like Broussard and say, watch out for this, but I'm not picking this. I am telling you right now that this 100% absolutely will happen. Saints letdown game when they go into Carolina. I can't believe it. Like, why not? Ooh. You think Jameis was that good, honestly? It was a nice story. I like the LASIK. I like that. No, you don't. You don't believe he was that good of what you saw. Meanwhile, Sam Darnold looked pretty good. That defense hit Zach Wilson 6 times for 51 yards of loss. I think the defense is better than anybody thinks. And Christian McCaffrey, a lot of guys are coming back from injury. We just saw Saquon come back and be like, okay. We saw Zeke be okay. Meanwhile, Christian McCaffrey had almost 200 yards from scrimmage. So I think he's going to have another big game. Panthers over Saints, Jenna. Put it in the books. Pen. Not Penn.
Also, the Panthers, that mixed reality Panther, it's scaring the crud out of just about any of their opponents. So I will say I'm going with Wilds on this one. Back talking some Dak Prescott and the Cowboys. It is only week 2, but is Sunday's game in L.A. already a must-win for Dallas? We being dramatic? Oh, I don't think so. We are back right after this. Stick around. Time to run the No Huddle. What a wild finish to Thursday Night Football. It looked like Big Blue had won it when Dustin Hopkins' field goal try sailed wide right. But Dexter Lawrence was offsides. What are you doing, Dexter? Hopkins stepped up, and this time nails it. It is a win for Washington, the first for Taylor Heineke and that team this season. Broussard, should Washington fans feel good, though, about last night?
Look, I understand that their vaunted defense hasn't looked as good and as dominant as we expected in these first 2 games. But yes, a win in the NFL is a win. And a win over a division opponent is a good win no matter what. So yes, they should feel good about this. You're in a division where Dallas is falling apart, literally. I mean, players getting injured left and right. Philadelphia's young and we don't know what they're made of yet. And the Giants are already 0-2. So yeah, they should be feeling good. And look, I'm not as high on Taylor Heineke as Nick is, who seems almost ready to give him a long-term contract at this point. But the kid is pretty good. He's got moxie. He's a leader. That locker room seems to love him, and they follow him. And he made some good plays. I love that he bounced back. He showed that he's unflappable when he bounced back from that late interception that he threw to go 6 for 8 on the game-winning drive and get them in field goal position to win the game. So, yeah, they should feel pretty good. Look, I got as much faith, Nick, in Heineke as I would have had in Ryan Fitzpatrick, because Fitzpatrick would have been good for 4 weeks, and then once the expectations came, he would have fallen apart. So they're all right with Heineke.
No. They're better with Heineke than Fitzpatrick. And you deal with the growing pains. You have him on Washington fans should feel awesome. Now, I didn't think they were going to make the playoffs before the year. I still don't think they're going to make the playoffs. However, though everyone's going to focus on, they would have lost the game if Dexter Lawrence doesn't jump off sides. Yes, that's true. What's also true is this. They were trailing, and Heineke in 2 plays drove him down the field with 1 very good pass and 1 perfect pass. Then, after the Giants can't pick up a first down after Heineke's 1 mistake, as Broussard mentioned, he drives him down the field into field goal range, and he did his job whether that kick is made or missed. It was missed the first time, made the second time. And if you're Washington now, you're saying whenever Fitzpatrick comes back, doesn't matter. Heineke's our quarterback the rest of the year. You have him on this contract, and you can try out and see if you've stumbled onto something. So Washington fans, particularly because there is such unknown with Philly and Dallas, should feel excellent. The defense will round into form.
Oh my God.
So I don't think they're a playoff team, but I think they should feel great this morning. What, Wilds? What's the problem?
I'm sorry, I don't mean...
You
I'm
hate
just being
Heineke.
nuanced. I'm just being nuanced to death. And I'm sorry. I know we're trying to be a smart show. We're trying to show you all the different angles. It's Dexter Lawrence's fault, okay? They shouldn't feel great. They should have said, wow, Dexter Lawrence jumped off sides. We would have lost the game. That's it. If you got a flat tire because you ran over a nail, and I started like, hey, why'd you get a flat tire? Like, well, you know, the road and the thickness of my tire because I've been driving. It's not. It's the nail's fault. It's Dexter Lawrence's fault. Washington should feel like they lost the game because they practically did. It's too much nuance. I'm a nuanced guy, just like I'm a ketchup guy. But at a certain point, there's too much of it. It's enough. It's enough.
Role reversal
Hold
this
on.
morning.
But
Too much
it's not
nuance.
like
I know,
it
but
was,
Jenna, someone's got to call it.
It's not like, listen,
Yeah, and you did.
Dexter Lawrence jumped
I love
off
it.
sides on a makeable field goal that missed by 1 yard to the right. So should Washington feel much differently if they had just made the first field goal? Like what you're saying, your commentary is about their confidence in their kicker. Your commentary is about the confidence in their kicker.
Stay on your
not
corner,
about
Wilds.
Hopkins, not
Don't get
about
nudged
Dexter
off.
Lawrence. Like it's not like he shanked it. He missed it a yard to the right,
He's pushing
and then
you
after the
off.
offsides, he made it a yard to the left. Like
I would feel
the
different if
game
he
as
made
a
the first
whole
one.
is the same. Yeah, well, that's stupid.
No, I
and you
would
know
feel
it's
different.
stupid, which is why you're
Well, I know.
laughing. Like, it makes no sense.
Don't you-
Wilds, your take makes
Stay
no
strong,
sense.
Wilds.
Sorry, buddy.
All right,
Sorry.
leave it there. Talking some Dak and the Cowboys now in L.A. to take on Justin Herbert and the Chargers on Sunday. Dallas needs to win to avoid their first 0-2 start since 2010. Came close to knocking off the defending champion Bucs in Week 1, but close doesn't cut it in the standings, or so they tell me. This prompting Dak to say still plenty of room for improvement. Take a listen.
We just got to be cleaner. We've got so many weapons, and we've got a great scheme. Kellen does a good job of putting us all in the best situations. I think last week we just missed some opportunities, whether it was missing a throw here or, maybe missing a block or whatever it may be, right? That we had opportunities to cash in, and we didn't, but we're going to learn from them. Obviously, we're going to move forward and use that as a way to get better. And yeah, we've got so much in the tank. We've got so many great red zone plays. That was something big that we went into this offseason focusing on. So we're just going to put our hand in the bag and pull out our tricks and everything that we've got, and know that we've got a lot of improvement is going to come.
Well, he says the right things. Nick, is Sunday's matchup against the Chargers already a must-win for Dallas?
Well, he certainly says the right things until the very end. I'd like to know what else is in that bag that he's putting his hand into. Sounds dangerous. But, no, this is absolutely not a must-win for the Cowboys. Their season starts on the road against 2 projected playoff teams. And if you look at their schedule, after this game at the Chargers, it is as soft as it gets for the next 7 weeks. Now, that's disrespectful to Philly. We'll see on Philly. But after Philly, Carolina, the Giants, the Patriots, the Vikings, the Broncos. We'll see what the Falcons look like before you play a great team in the Chiefs. So even if they lose this game, they could easily be 6-3 after 9 weeks. So no, I don't think this is a must-win. I think it's a must-play well for Zeke. I would like to see what Zeke can do. And the other sneaky, interesting part of this game, Broussard, are the Cowboys actually going to have home field advantage? Los Angeles does not have a fervent Charger fan base. The Cowboys have a massive fan base in LA. You've got that gorgeous new stadium. Is it going to sound like a Cowboys home game? I'm interested in seeing that. Wow. But I think the Cowboys can lose this game and feel fine, Broussard.
Look, they're America's team. All right, everybody's always talking about the Cowboys. So if they lose and they fall to 0-2, and we know that teams that are 0-2 rarely make the playoffs. All right, it's like 12% of teams make the playoffs when they're 0-2. The last 20 to go 0-2 did not make the playoffs the last 2 years. So everybody will be like the sky is falling if the Cowboys lose this game. It'll be talked about ad nauseum for the next week. But I am with you, Nick. It's just not a must-win. Regardless of this stat that you just saw on the graphic, it's not for two reasons. One, Nick already mentioned, the schedule's light. They don't play another playoff team or team that made the playoffs last year until week 11 when they got the Chiefs. And then the division they're in. It's the NFC least. We all know it's the worst division in football. The Giants are already struggling. Washington's not a world beater. And Philly, even if they're for real, they're still not that good. All right, so that gives them plenty of cushion. The one thing I disagree with you on, Nick, I don't think it's a must-play-well game for Zeke, although you'd like to see it. I do think it's a must-play-well game for Dak, though. Let's see, is he really back? Last week he looked great. If he has a clunker in a loss this week, then now I'm like, okay, where are we on Dak? All right, they need Dak to play well. He needs to play well for everybody to see.
All right, let's shift to Baker and the Cleveland Browns now, another team looking to avoid an 0-2 start. Baker played pretty well last week against the Chiefs, coming off a good year last year. So why hasn't he gotten a contract extension yet? Well, The Athletic offered this. The Browns have yet to extend an offer to the number 1 pick from the 2018 NFL Draft, according to sources. But while all is currently quiet, neither side has ruled out the idea of opening negotiations during the season. The relationship between Mayfield and the Browns remains positive, according to the sources from the Browns' perspective. They want to see Mayfield produce over a longer stretch of time in second-year head coach Kevin Stefanski's offensive system. Hey, Wild, how much pressure is on Baker to prove himself, to have a big game against the Texans on Sunday?
I would say literally zero. I think they should win the game, but the idea, Broussard, that Baker needs to be thinking about his contract, and this question is a little bit of a low-key diss at the Texans, who, and this might be a hot take, I don't think is as bad as everybody thinks they are. They prove they can play a little bit. That was sort of like people were underestimating Tyrod, underestimating Culley. I think they're going to be okay. So I think Baker should have zero pressure. I do think that they should start talking about the deal. And Baker shouldn't be in on it, but his representation should be, obviously, and hopefully it gets done. Baker's the quarterback of the future. You found your franchise QB. It's not like you're going to be like, go fish, let's go find somebody else. Sign Baker at some point, but no pressure this weekend.
Wiles, that was amazing. Because you talked about a subtle diss of the Houston Texans while putting a subtle diss on the Houston Texans. Because if you had any thought that they could actually beat the Browns, you would not say there's 0% pressure on Baker Mayfield. All right, and now I'm with you. I get it. We just saw the stat about 0-2, and they, unlike the Cowboys, are in a tough division. So if they lose this game, it's going to be a lot tougher on the Browns to get to the playoffs than we think. But I have no confidence whatsoever in the Texans. Look, I get it. They look like world beaters against Knicks Jaguars. Fine. They're not playing Knicks Jaguars this week. All right, they're playing the Cleveland Browns, who will stomp them. All right, they're going to stomp them. So if I thought that Houston could win this game, Wilds, I would feel like there was pressure on Baker. Yeah. Because, look, the contract situation is what it is. But, no, I don't think they have any hope of beating the Browns. Henceforth, Nick, there's no pressure on them.
Go ahead, Wilds.
Go ahead, Nick. No, you go.
Oh, okay. Thanks. So I don't want to pile on Wilds this segment, but I actually disagree that people might be underrating the Texans. I think they might actually slightly right now be overrating the Texans. I'm thinking back on the committee's tiers, and we elevated the Texans off the very bottom row of expansion 2.0. They maybe should stay there. I think week 1's going to be an aberration. I actually think there's a lot of pressure on Baker this week because we know what the Texans are going to do. The Texans are going to dedicate their entire defensive scheme to stopping the run because you saw how effective Chubb and Hunt were against Kansas City. Baker's going to have the most easy and open throwing lanes available. The Texans, right before the start of their season, traded away their #1 corner. So Baker should have a monster game. There's no reason for him not to have a monster game if he gets the attempts. And they're 13-point favorites. That's supposed to happen in college football, not week 1 of the NFL. What I find, to be honest, and it's something to watch for next week, more interesting in the short term for the Browns than Baker's contract extension, is the status of my guy, Odell Beckham Jr. Odell went from game time decision week 1 to midweek scratch week 2. It's now been almost a year since he got his knee blown out. For the Browns to be the team that I believe they can be in the AFC Championship game, that Broussard believes they can be, they need Odell, and they need Odell and Baker with reps to get on the same page. But this week, they don't need anybody. They will annihilate the Texans, and Baker needs to, there is pressure on him to play well because he's going to have it all. You're not going to have an easier matchup than this week for him the rest of the year.
All right, we'll see. Let's stay in the AFC North. Let's talk about that guy right there, Lamar Jackson. The pressure, speaking of pressure, mounting on the former MVP. We're going to bring in Mike Vick to break it down next. But first, Tommy and Gronky back for season 2. Check this out.
Can Tom Brady play until 50 years old?
Wow. Seems to be a really hot question lately. Can Tom Brady play till 50? Like 50 years old?
Yeah, 50.
50.
You're 44, that's 6 more years.
I don't find it so difficult. And plus in Florida, it's kind of a retiree state. So I feel like I can play and then just glide into retirement. I think I can. I think it's a yes.
You know, there's a little spin to that question. I think it's, will Giselle let Tom play till 50?
First things first, back here with former Pro Bowl quarterback Mike Vick. Good morning, Mike. Great to have you with us. We are talking big AFC showdown Sunday night. Ravens-Chiefs. Lamar versus Mahomes. It was a rough week 1 for Lamar. Lost 2 fumbles in that overtime loss to Vegas. Things are not getting any easier this week. Lamar has struggled in the head-to-head matchups with Mahomes. Remember, just last year, he called this team his kryptonite. Probably a Superman reference. Here's Lamar on once again going up against the kings of the AFC.
It's not about, man, Mahomes. Not to me, probably to everyone else, but, it's the Ravens versus Kansas City Chiefs. They did beat us, 3 times or whatever, but that's in the past. We got a better opportunity this time to come around, and we take the advantage and win at our home stadium. But I'm not dwelling on those losses. We coming Sunday night, and we're going to play.
So Fox Bet Sportsbook has the Chiefs favored by 3.5 points on the road Sunday night in this one. Mike Vick, you trust Lamar to get his first win versus Mahomes Sunday night?
I trust Lamar. I trust him for a couple reasons. Number one, Lamar just don't lose consecutive games, and he's been as good as any quarterback in the league, bouncing back from a loss. 2, he's always going to be one of the most competitive and athletic guys, on the field, especially at the quarterback position. The ball is in his hands, but I don't think this game is all about Lamar. When I look at the Baltimore Ravens defense, last week they did more than enough to win the game versus Vegas. They scored 27 points, and that's enough for the Baltimore Ravens defense, you would think. But, the thing that they're going to have to do is stop Travis Kelce. I think he's going to be the caveat. I think he's going to be the guy that if the Baltimore Ravens can't control him, he'll open it up for Patrick Mahomes and that Kansas City offense. And you just can't allow Patrick Mahomes to get comfortable. It's a rivalry for a reason, and it's turning into a rivalry for a reason. Lamar understands that, and it reminds me of my days when I played in Atlanta when we had to face the Philadelphia Eagles year in and year out. never could get over the hump. The reason why I never played in the Super Bowl or could win this NFC Championship game was because they always stood in my way. So this does feel like a must-win situation for the Baltimore Ravens. They don't want to get off to an 0-2 start. That's just not what we envisioned for them for the season.
And by the way, Baltimore, if people remember, last year when I was going through the Chiefs' schedule, I said, no, they'll lose to Baltimore. Like, their toughest game of the year is their game at Baltimore. They'll lose it. This year, I think potentially their toughest game is at Baltimore. And I think there is a way for the Ravens to beat Kansas City. And Lamar is a part of it, but he is not the majority of it. They just have to run the ball almost every play. And they weren't able to do that in their last matchup. They tried, but then they got out of it. The Chiefs' run defense has been its biggest weakness since Mahomes got there. The problem is, and the Browns game is an interesting case study in it, teams, even when they have the lead, get nervous. The Browns were running on first down, running on first down, running on first down, and controlling that game. Then the 75-yard touchdown to Tyreek Hill happens, and how do the Browns respond? They pass on first down, or they attempt to. It's a Chris Jones sack. Now you're in 2nd and 17, drive over, and the game flips right there, far more so than it flipped on the muffed punt. It was that sack that flipped the game. And which is why I think it's important they don't look at this as Lamar, who only had 97 yards passing in their last matchup. They were down 2 scores most of the game. The previous matchup, they were down 2 scores most of the game. They can't look at it as Lamar has to outduel Mahomes. They have to look at it as we're just going to keep running at your weak run defense. The problem, Broussard, is actually, I think, potentially the other side of the ball for Baltimore. I think if Baltimore does that, they will have success on offense. I think they will have very few punts. I think they'll score points, and they have one of the 2 best kickers in football. The problem is they love to play this man-to-man blitzing defense. There is no defense in football Mahomes eats up more than that. They already lost Marcus Peters. They just lost another corner. Do they have the personnel to stop the Chiefs from scoring at will? So I think there's a scenario where Lamar plays well, where the Ravens score 30 points and lose. Because I think the defense is beat up, and I think the real story of the Lamar-Mahomes matchups has been the way Mahomes has beaten up the Ravens' defense more so than Lamar's individual struggles.
Yeah, look, I'm going to make this a trifecta because I do agree. I have confidence in Lamar to play well and to have a good game. Obviously, coming off the game with 2 fumbles, as Vic said, you know he wants to bounce back and play well, and I think he will. And I'm with you, Nick. I think they can have a strong running performance against that defense in Kansas City where they're very weak against the run. But they have not beaten the Chiefs in the last 3 games, all the 3 games Lamar started, and they had top 5 defenses at those times and still couldn't beat them. Now, I don't think their defense is nearly as good. Whether it's the injuries or whatever, their defense is not as good as it has been in the previous few years, and they still couldn't stop the Chiefs. So I do think if you run the football and you try to eat up clock, that's a good strategy, I believe, against the Chiefs. But the thing is, the Chiefs can score so quickly that they still can get a lead on you. And if they get a lead and now Baltimore's playing from behind, you're going to have to throw the ball some, Nick. And that's where they could struggle. So I just think that the Ravens' inability, like the 2 of you said, their inability to stop the Chiefs is what's going to be their downfall, not so much Lamar struggling.
So, Mike, do you think Lamar is in danger of playing a subpar game because he's trying to do too much? That he knows the Chiefs are his kryptonite, that Mahomes is 3-0 against them. If the Chiefs get out to an early lead, that he starts trying to make things happen. Like last game, he stayed in the pocket a little bit. At the end of the game, got stripped. He had a good, he probably had an 8-yard run, tries to turn into a 10-yard run, dives forward, gets the ball knocked out. Do you think that patience, like Lamar's patience, might be an Achilles heel here as he tries to will a beaten up and battered Ravens team to victory?
Yeah, well, while sometimes you don't become naive to the things that's going on the other side of the ball. And I think Nick said it best. Lamar's going to have to do his part, and that's about all he can do. He get paid to do a job as a quarterback. That's control the offense. That's run the ball when he can. That's pass the football around the yard. But when he looked on the other side, and as he watched film or think back to what happened last week, he's seen his defense get put in some critical situations in terms of the scheme. They was playing a lot of man coverage, doing a lot of blitzing and leaving guys on the island. That's a success. That's an opportunity for other teams to have big plays and successful plays going down the field. And, you know, guys are only human. You can't run around all day, you know, on the field. Sometimes you got to preserve that energy, play a little zone. You got to mix it up. When guys are being ran down the field and other teams are stretching the field and putting them in positions where they're going to come back and be tired and then try to go at them again on the next play, that's not on the offense. That's on the defense. So I think defensively, they got to scheme up to play a little zone, not as much man, because the Kansas City Chiefs receivers will run past them all day and tire them out. So on defense, they got to preserve their energy and be better.
Mike, I want to ask you one more question, because this is a point Wilds brought up Tuesday morning when we were discussing the Ravens-Raiders game. And that is the amount of jeopardy that Lamar is put in on a play-to-play basis. With the receiving core beat up the way it is, with the running back room, you're down your top 3 guys from a month ago, you're bringing guys off the street. The Ravens' plan seemed to be a lot of it, Lamar, figure it out. Their offensive line had a brutal game. And Lamar, to his credit, I know he had the fumbles, but he did make some sensational plays. But anyone watching that game was like, oh, this reminds me of something I saw around 20 years ago, when the playing in Atlanta at times seemed to be, all right, we've got something drawn up, but it's probably going to end up being Mike, figure it out. At some point, does that take almost a mental toll along with the physical toll? So you're getting hit more than any other quarterback in the league, but you also know on a play-to-play basis, our plan B is really plan A, which is I'm going to have to do something spectacular. Like, how much do you think that weighs on Lamar, set aside the injury risk it puts him, it makes him susceptible to?
Yeah, man, it's just a lot of pressure on Lamar coming into a game to run and pass, and that's unfortunate. He can't relax and be comfortable and play his game. While we've seen an offense that looks different, we've gotten accustomed to it, but that offense has put Lamar in harm's way on a consistent basis. And what Greg Roman has to do is continue to open things up and stretch the field. Like, I understand quarterback draws here and there, a couple quarterback counters that you can mix in just to give the defense a different look. It's a different scheme, but, the onus is not on Lamar, man. Lamar can't be put in harm's way. I think his job is to come in and just pass the football to the best of his abilities, make plays in the run game, and not make the scheme too difficult. They got every chance to win this game. They did more than enough last week to win, and I just think this is on the defense this week. It'll be a statement game for them.
Welcome back. Time now for Stores to Start Your Morning, sponsored by Ram Trucks, built to serve. We're talking the big AFC showdown Sunday in Baltimore. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. Here's a look at Chiefs' schedule now. After Baltimore, it's the Chargers, Eagles, and Bills up next, loaded with AFC contenders early. Nick, would a win over the Ravens convince you that an undefeated season is possible and probably probable for the Chiefs? Asked and answered.
Well, I would argue their 2 toughest games of the year. Let me sit back in my chair. I got so excited looking at all those upcoming W's. Are the first 2 weeks of the season. Home for the Browns and then at Baltimore. So if you start 2-0, it starts to become a real conversation. But before we dig into it, we got to do something because the show's almost over. And I have like a good news, bad news situation. The good news is, as far as content goes, we can start doing those who are the best players 25 and under lists in the NFL again and have them be interesting. The bad news is we have really screwed up as a show because we're an hour and 52 minutes in and we haven't done what we needed to do. which is wish Patrick Mahomes a happy 26th birthday. Happy birthday, Patrick. Oh. I can't believe we missed it. It's a big day. Hopefully he's not doing too much celebrating. Got a big game to prepare for. But it also does, oh yeah, nice. It does make those 25 and under lists interesting again, because this was like when Giannis was under 25. It's like, who's the best player under 25? Giannis. Now we can do it. Now we can have fun with it. Is it Justin Herbert? Who isn't? Okay, now to this. Broussard, if they don't lose in Baltimore, who's beating them? And now there would be like, well, what about at the end of the year if they're resting people? Look who they're playing at the end of the year. They're playing terrible teams, potentially. Teams that maybe Chad Henne, anything is possible fame, could beat. So I said before the year, I thought they were going to go 20-0. And I said after week 1, if they're not going to lose that game, Broussard, what game are they going to lose? They're favorites every single game of the year. They're 3.5-point favorites in Baltimore. So yes, of course, absolutely, unequivocally, without a doubt, if they win on Sunday, 17-0 is a real possibility.
All right, Nick, look, you know I'm with you in that I think the Chiefs are the best team in football. I picked the Chiefs just like you did to win the Super Bowl, okay? But slow down on the 20-0. Now, I will give you this. If let's say they're 15-0 and you say, okay, they're going to start resting Mahomes and look, I got to be honest, and I know that the big picture is win the Super Bowl. That matters much more than an undefeated season. But if they're 15-0, if I'm in that position, I think I'm going for it. I think I'm going for history. You know, and so I would think they might go ahead and play Mahomes the whole 17. I'm pretty sure he would want to do it. So I don't know that that's the scenario that would take place if they're 15-0, to your point. But here's what I say to you, Nick. Can I name a team that's going to beat them? No. I mean, we know they got some good play. They got the Packers. They got some other good teams that are out of their division that they have to play. However, Nick, the team nobody's better than them in my estimation, but that doesn't mean they won't lose a game. A couple years ago when they won the Super Bowl and Pat Mahomes, that's when he threw for 50 touchdowns, they lost to Indianapolis. They also lost to Houston and Tennessee with Mahomes quarterbacking, but Houston and Tennessee at least made the playoffs. Indianapolis was 7-9, and they held the Chiefs to 13 points, even though Mahomes threw for over 300, and they beat them. So my point is, this is the NFL, baby. Any given Sunday, it might be a team with a losing record that beats Kansas City one week, but I don't think, Nick, that they'll go undefeated. Yeah, right. There you go.
The Raiders, and by the way, that's the only game they lost last year with Mahomes on the field, other than the Super Bowl, was the Raiders game. So undefeated they were on the precipice of it last season. But Wilds, I'm going to say something that I think you're going to disagree with, but it's fine because I just know in my bones I'm right. An undefeated season actually is more important than the Super Bowl. Can you tell me every team that's won the Super Bowl? Oh, really? Wilds, let me ask you this. What's the best Patriot team of your lifetime? What is it? What's the best Patriot team?
Okay,
What is it?
The undefeated team, but we were 18-1.
The undefeated team.
You do agree, Wild?
Yeah,
you
that's
agree?
The best. It's the best team. Somebody wins the Super Bowl every year. Two teams have gone undefeated in the regular season. One team has finished the job. It's more important. 17-0, and by the way, you hope to finish the job. It's more important. It's more legendary, Wild.
You gotta finish the job. If you don't finish the job, it means nothing, Nick. The 73-win Golden State Warriors, are we praising them? No. You have to, I get it. If you go undefeated and finish the job, yes, it means everything. But undefeated in the regular season and losing in the playoffs, it don't mean a thing.
Well, Wilds is an expert on that. Wilds. Yeah, well, listen, I mean, Wilds is an expert on undefeated regular season losing the playoffs. Tell us.
Yeah, that's my favorite team. That's just the team. That was my favorite team just because I wanted Randy to get a ring. That was my favorite team. I would take that. Yeah. I would trade the Seattle Super Bowl for that Super Bowl. All right, Nick, here's the thing, though.
Yeah.
First of all, you guys did lose to the Chargers. That game does count. I know Patrick Mahomes was not on the field. That still counts. And I think it doesn't matter. It's still a loss. You guys lost. Justin Herbert beat the Chiefs. I know Mahomes wasn't there, but it was still a loss. When you look up the Chiefs record, that counts as a loss. And I think that still gives Justin Herbert a little bit of extra. You also lost to the Raiders because you had a bunch of penalties. I also think that Aaron Rodgers, the idea that you're going to roll over the Packers because we saw 1 week of bad play from the Packers is wrong. But my final point is this. I think you're hurting your Chiefs. I think not looking at every week individually, you are actually doing a disservice for your Chiefs. The air of overconfidence that you guys took into the Super Bowl is going to permeate the regular season. I think we shouldn't do this questioning again. I think you're hurting your own favorite team, bud.
No.
Nervous for you.
Listen, I would agree if I thought the Chiefs were, the in vogue pick. But we got folks picking Buffalo. We got the folks at Football Outsiders saying they're not a top 12 team after week 1. Don't get me wrong. They're the 69 Mets of the NFL. Nobody believes in them, Jenna, but I do. Let's be clear.
Have a great weekend, everybody. The conversation continues right now on Undisputed. We'll see you on Monday.